What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the In the Paint Show. Your co-host, Ronnie Flores, with my co-host, Umana. Ani, how's it going? We're 125. Times is going by. You know what I thought this week? It just seemed like a normal week. I mean, we had the live period, but nothing too crazy. Did you notice that? Just we got to this date and everything seems okay.
Yeah, nothing too crazy. Even the live period just didn't have. This was like the first April live period in a long time, but it didn't give me live period vibes. It gave me like typical summer basketball weekend. I don't know.
Just something new. I know what you mean. We'll talk about that. And I think I know the vibe you're talking about. I think that's shared by a lot of people. It wasn't the buzz maybe that we've had before for various reasons. We talked about it last week with the transfer portal and those type of things. You know, it's just a different feel. It's been a while, but we got back into it. You were at an event. Ani, where were you at? What event in what city?
So I was at the GASO in Dallas. I stayed locally. I had I watched a lot of EYBL on the live stream.
Online. Okay.
And then I had my guy Mark Cooper. He worked for me. So he lives out in Orlando. So
so that was perfect.
Yeah, it was perfect. Like, I got he has a good eye, but he's young. So, I had to look at it myself. But I was in Dallas and Orlando at the same time, basically, this weekend. How about you?
Good. Yeah, I was in the Pangos Sweet 16 and the Jerry Mullins JUCO event. And we talk a little bit about JUCO, but it was a solid event, and there was good high school talent, mostly in the younger divisions. It wasn't overwhelming. Again, I think that's what we kind of the gist of what we got into is like it wasn't overwhelming for various reasons. And we're going to maybe talk with a guest about that, and we'll talk amongst ourselves why it wasn't overwhelming. And I think we kind of touched on it last week, and just in terms of the, what's going on in college basketball. But let's jump to high school basketball. And Calvary Christian, as expected, Fab 50 number 7 dominates the first state champions invitational. So in the semifinal, they beat Sidwell Friends 58-37. And then they beat Auburn, Washington, who made the final. Auburn looked really good in the semifinal. Auburn beat Norcross. Auburn came in 31. Auburn 58-37. Norcross was number 48. Very interesting. Norcross was missing its best player, Ani. And, that kind of London Johnson, he's their leading scorer. He was at the Nike Hoop Summit. And we could talk a little bit about that, too. The U.S. team won. But we kind of want to jump in as expected, Calvary Christian dominates. So after the semifinal games, they played Auburn and ran away with it. I mean, they just stepped it up big time. Auburn 71-44. So they really pulled away toward the end. Auburn played a terrific game in the semifinals. I got to really give them credit. They just executed really well. And in that whole game, let me see if I can pull up the stat. Auburn had assisted on their first, I believe, 18 buckets. Let me double check that.
Really?
Yes. Let me double check that real quick. Make sure I'm not talking, not knowing what I'm saying. But yeah, and then in the final, my point being in the final, when they went up against the length and size of Calvary, like it was way different. It was way different. They didn't have that. Okay, it was the first 14 field goals. I'm sorry. And they had 25 field goals for the game. They assisted on 20 of them and had 3 turnovers versus Sidwell Friends. Well, here's their number against Auburn. 13 turnovers, 12 assists.
Oh, wow.
Because, again, the Auburn jumped out at 18-4 lead, 24-5, and just never really looked back. They look like a Fab 50 top 10 team. They finished number 7. They couldn't go any higher because they lost to Montverde on a three-pointer by Sky Clark. New Illinois commit Sky Clark hit a 3 at the buzzer. and number 6 IMG Academy beat Montverde twice. So there was just really nowhere for Calvary to go, but like they're legitimately a top 10 team. So based on that, what did you make of it, Highline? Like you kind of figure, I know you've kind of figured Calvary was going to win, but what do you think about like just having high school teams on TV? Like, is it, when you watch just a regular high school team or team that are not loaded with talent, sometimes it looks, it's on national TV and you're like, well, I don't know what the fans probably think, especially the general fans, like, whoa, what, is this, what is this? So, what's your high take of that? Or do you think all high school basketball being promoted is good?
Well, these games, I mean, Calvary just kind of blew both teams out. So I like it, obviously, for the exposure for the kids, but ain't nobody trying to watch no 30-point blowout, especially when there's not like high level kids. I mean, Calvary has really good talent.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know what the viewership was for that. I mean, I wouldn't say, it was just blown away. We talked prior to the show just about like after GEICO, just the excitement just not really there. For like a high school game like that, and especially for games that are just so like there's no, even though Bronny James isn't like a 5-star kid, but like just there's no Bronny James, there's no like Derek Lively or like a big time 5-star kid on TV. It's just like watching it. I mean, it's very similar like if Indiana Pacers played the Orlando Magic, right, on national TV.
Sunday game,
yeah, like it's cool they got a national TV game, but how many people other than their local fans are really watching?
Correct. Yeah, the timing is a little different. Well, I kind of related to. I think it's a great concept. Obviously, we had Rashid Ghazi, the event creator, a few weeks ago on the pod, but I kind of look at it as it's a great concept, just needs tweaking.
Right.
It's kind of like having, like you said, GEICO was a good event. It's always a pretty good event. There's an 18 field. This is a 14 field, and it was 2 blowouts for the Calvary Christian. But it's like having the NIT after the NCAA tournament. It's just like a hangover.
Yeah.
We're going to have to make some adjustments of when it is. Obviously, you want to keep getting better teams. See, I'm a junkie, so I'd rather watch a high school game on TV than any level because I like the high school level. But I know from the standpoint of like the average fan, they're probably looking at the game like, let me change to see what Tiger's doing on the Masters, or let me watch the news, or let me go watch a college event, or I'm going to get out of the house. It's a nice spring day. You know what I mean? It's a grassroots season. It's getting late in the high school season. So it's the timing, the level of talent. And again, when you've already built in GEICO after 12 or 13 years, that's a nice yearly thing that the high school fan looks forward to on college weekend. Even some college fans are probably watching GEICO, like, oh yeah, I want to watch GEICO. They know those are high level players are going to their favorite college. But to get teams in my Fab 50 that are 31, 48, 15, 18, 25, you're like, I could see people be like, it's okay. I missed it. It's not a big deal.
Right. No, I agree with you 100%. Yeah. Like you say, in GEICO, there were so many players that are going to schools of the college fans, Wow. And so like you had a really high level games. I mean, you talk about top 10, like the top teams in the country, where when you're talking about like other than Calvary, who's highly ranked, everybody else is in 30s and 40s, for me, I want to go back and watch it, right? Mm-hmm. Like you watched it, but like
correct
casual fan, like no one's.
Yeah, the casual fan's not going to go back and say, "Hey, let me DVR that," and I really want to catch that game.
I think the only time it actually really does something if it's like a real high level game, it goes to OT, game winning shot, then like you promote it, and then people want to go watch it. But other than that, it's just hard to get a lot of viewership on that.
Yeah, they're going to move on. So so that's a good start to the event. Obviously, they probably wanted a little higher level. Like you said, Bishop Gorman. I thought Liberty should have been in there. Liberty versus Calvary would have been a good fight.
Yes.
Should have been in there. So again, they did it. Calvary finished number 7. So there wasn't much difference between Sidwell Friends and Auburn. Auburn did look better, but here's the thing: with Sidwell Friends, they Only lost one other game to Archbishop Carroll in overtime, but they had beat Bishop McNamara from the WCAC with DeMatha and Paul VI and all those. So they couldn't drop too far. So they dropped to 23. Bishop McNamara, I dropped them a little bit because Sidwell Friends was definitely a step behind Calvary. Like they're not on their level. Calvary.
No, not at
all. So they dropped to 20 from 20 to 26, and Auburn just drops 5 spots. They were at 31, so they're at 36. And I just left Norcross at 48 in the final rankings. Again, they didn't have their best player. Norcross didn't really play that well. Georgia public school teams weren't really that great this year. I mean, I know Norcross got in. They were the, Class 7A champs, but they weren't,
Yeah, they were a step below.
Yeah, they weren't as good as those Sharif Cooper teams from a few years ago and a few other we've seen over the years, the Milton team. Again, the Milton team that would have been healthy, last year Milton was really good, and until they ran into the 2 of their players got in real big trouble, but they were a really great team, so it wasn't to that level this year. So again, Calvary did what they could. They performed well. University of Central Florida, Taylor Hendricks, MVP, 24-12 in the semifinal over Sidwell, 13-5-3 in the win over Auburn. All 5 starters went for double figures against Auburn. They're still going to be pretty good next year. So we'll be watching those. But like you mentioned, close games was kind of the theme of the season, not really necessarily this event. And GEICO's had some close games, and the GEICO field, like you said, had 5 or 6 of the top 10. And because Duncanville beat Montverde, the GEICO champs, they're the national champs. We kind of knew that last week, but now they're officially the national champs. So I wanted to get your take on it, Ani. They're the 3rd public school national champ in 7 years. We got Michael Porter Jr.'s team, Hale, with Brandon Roy when he coached at Garfield. And I'm sorry, Nathan Hale before he went over to Garfield. He was at Nathan Hale High School with Michael Porter Jr. and John Tate Porter. That was 2017. And then they had beat Sierra Canyon with Marvin Bagley in Oregon, La Schwab, and Sierra Canyon had sent the GEICO champ to their only loss, which was La Lemire, a really good La Lemire team with Tuggs Bowen and our guy in Memphis. What's our guy's name, the forward in Memphis?
I
can't think of it. Jaron Jackson Jr.
Yes, right. That's right.
They had a good team, and they had Poole,
right,
from the Golden State Warriors.
Mm-hmm, they sure did.
Really good team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember that team. That team was loaded.
Yeah, La Lemire had a really good team, but again, they lost to Nathan Hale with Michael Porter, beat Sierra Canyon, and Sierra Canyon beat La Lemire at Hoop Hall. So they're the champs. And then the previous year we had Chino Hills, which we all know about, the famous team. Right. The Run GMZ, we call them, Lonzo, Mello, Zoe, Jello, Mello, and Zoe. So those guys, that's 3 in 7 years. So maybe that gives hope to the state champions invitational. If they add a Texas, add California, add a few more, like they can have a really big event. What do you think about that? Again, 3 out of 7 ain't bad. Everybody's like, oh, GEICO's going to dominate. Montverde's, those teams are too good. Maybe not. You know what I mean? What do you think about that?
Those teams are very beatable. But like you said, like if you added like a Duncanville, if Liberty's in there, you get some of the top public school teams in there, like from different states. Because I know it only right now this state invitation only covers a certain amount of states. You get all those states, you get a Duncanville, Liberty, and all these other teams. Like it can compete with the GEICO. It may. GEICO's just been around 13 years now.
Yeah.
You're not going to get it by year 2 or year 3, but 4 or 5 now it's like a real viable. Like, hey, like this is a must watch. We spent probably about like 7 minutes previewing the invitational this show. You had the top teams. I mean, shit, you talking about we'll have a whole section,
we'll have a whole rundown of it. Yeah. I mean, on this one, all we're saying is Calvary dominated, Marvell Allen, Taylor Hendricks, that whole group they got, which is a hell of a group, and it's like, but yeah, we're not going to spend too much time on it.
Right.
Greg Glenn, Michigan, Brendan Lawrence, Florida Atlantic, so they got a squad.
And then, you know, just for me, like you said, these teams are beatable. The Oak Hills, Link Year's emerging, and Sunrise, and those teams are beatable from these public schools teams. We got, like you said, Duncanville's #1 this year. Like, if you get these type of teams, I think it makes it better. But for year one, like you said, it's good. But I think you can have something that's really viable, you know, especially for the public schools.
Yeah, for sure. So hopefully they keep growing it. We don't want to beat the drum, but of course, how Duncanville got into #1, they started 7, and then they went to 5. By the time they played Montverde, and everybody says, "Oh, well, they're playing in district." Yeah, but by the time they played Montverde, when they beat Montverde on the 3-point shot by Demings, 67-66, they had already beat 6 Fab 50 ranked teams. That was their 10th game. So in 10 games, they played 6 ranked teams. So like they were already preparing for that. You know what I mean? They were preparing for a run at #1, and they knew that Montverde game was the big game. Dariq Whitehead played really well that game. I mean, he just kept Montverde. I remember, you know, that he had some big shots. But, you know, they beat Centennial.
Yeah.
They beat, obviously, the team that beat Richardson, 54-52. They beat Richardson in the regional quarterfinals. McKinney, they beat them by 20, which the game you were at.
It wasn't even close.
Yeah, so, you know, give a shout out to them. They're the 3rd team, like I said, in 7 years to finish #1. Well-deserving. David Peavy's program. We had him on the show a couple weeks ago talking about the team. Go check out that episode. I believe it's 122, 123. You know, Duncanville is the 3rd UIL program in 20 years. Dallas Lincoln in 2001, 2002 with Chris Boss, and Yates, the high-scoring Yates team that even scored more points than Chino Hills. 2009, 2010 with Joe Young. So when you were in 11th grade then, Ani, what did you remember about the Joe Young Yates team?
What year was that?
2009, 2010.
Yeah, I was a junior. Yeah. That team, I mean, there was YouTube. They were big on YouTube. That's when YouTube was really like with basketball highlights. It was starting to really come on. And so I remember just watching like Joe Young, seeing how fast they played. Like they play so ridiculously fast. And I'm like, you know, I'm in high school. I'm like, Coach, can we play this fast? Like, you know,
no, you guys don't have the horses.
No, that's what he said. He said, Ani, you'd be tired after 2 trips down. And I was just like, you know, I was mad, but you know, he wasn't lying. Like, I just remember how fast they played. They would shoot threes, like they would cross half court, jacking it, like dunks, oops. I mean, they were. It wasn't even real because I was in Tyler, Texas, so Houston's like 3.5 hours away. I never got to see him in person, but just the videos, you're just like, how is this real? Like this, like the way they played was so wild.
Yeah, and they had a full court press and they brought guys in. So you know, they subbed a lot. Shout out to Greg Wise, who's the coach at Yates. They had Joe Young, obviously, who signed with Providence. I think he ended up at Oregon. Brandon Peters went to Western Kentucky. Darius Gardner, Stephen F. Austin. I mean, that team had some rollers. So shout out to them. Shout out to the UIL. You know, again. third time, 3 championships in 20 years is really good.
That's really good. And that Duncanville team's going to be loaded next year. I mean, not having AB, Sykes, and them, but you got Demings, you got Ron Holland, you got Ashton Hardaway, Cameron Barnes. You got some young guys. They got a kid that's been playing pretty good. He's a 2025. They got some young pieces coming up that can fill some roles. Yeah.
I want to give a shout out to we've been talking about a lot about the old guys, but you're right. You know, this group, a lot of guys average about 9 points a game. Demings, Hardaway, Cam Barnes, 6 points. Sykes, Davion Sykes, a senior, 9 and 5, and then offensive MVP for the district, 11-6A was Anthony Black, the McDonald's All-American, 13 points, 58% from the field he shot. And then the player of the year in the district is Ron Holland, 15 points, leading scorer, 60% from the field, 8 rebounds a game, 2 steals. So how is, in your opinion, is Ron Holland in the running for, like, is he a top 3 player? Is he a top 5 player? Where is Ron Holland in this group right now?
Yeah, I mean, he's in contention for number 1, which is, just production. everywhere from Duncanville, even in the first live period. I mean, against JJ Taylor's group, he had 22 and 8. He's moving more like a 3. So, one of the things about Ron is like they say he's like a post. I think his perimeter game's improved. He's shooting it better. He's moving more like a 3-man. But he rebounds at a high level, plays at a high motor. I think he's in contention for 1. I wouldn't give him number 1, but he's definitely top 3. And he just keeps getting better. That kid's like a workhorse. So like I definitely think top 3.
Okay, that's great. I'm happy for him. Let's and we'll move on and talk about those guys. Obviously, there's two guys that everybody's talking about. One's in Texas, one's from California. It's like they're blowing up. I mean, AJ Johnson, I've known about for Jalen Green Elite for a long time. I've known him, probably in 6th grade, maybe even younger. I've seen him at camps. He's been to a lot of things I've known. And then tell us about the kid in Texas that everybody thinks is.
Zayden High?
Yeah.
So
Zayden High.
So Zayden High, they played in the season ticket had event. I remember we talked about it last week, and he was really good. He grew like 3 inches. I haven't seen Zayden in a minute because he's dismissed on Valley in San Antonio. Like I ain't going down there. And so he's grown like 3 inches taller. He's shooting the piss out of it. He's dunking it. Always been a high level passer. Can put the ball on the floor. And like when I watched him last week, I was like, hold on. I was telling people, I was like, he's top 3 in the state of Texas. I think he's a top 50 national ranked kid. And I got a lot of resistance from that. I got a lot of resistance. Yeah, because it was 1 weekend, right? But I was
like, slow down.
Yeah, they're like, don't be a prisoner of the moment, on it. Don't be a prisoner of the moment. Okay. So I was like, so seeing it this weekend, that it was the same thing. And now it's like, oh, he's a 5-star, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm not the one to go on Twitter and say, I told y'all, right? Yeah. But it's like.
Come on now. Yeah.
Like, it's not hard to evaluate when a kid is 6'9", a good athlete, and can shoot the piss out of it. It's not.
That sounds like hard. A really good athlete. Yeah, and a really good prospect. It's like 6'9" can shoot and move and is growing and is still getting better.
Right.
What are we talking about here? You're right. Yeah. So that's AJ Johnson was always he's from Fresno originally area. He came down to Southern California to play at Taft or Woodland Hills. He always had the look and the feel. He's a point guard, but he just was a little physically weak during COVID. Like about a year and a half ago, I saw him at a few events and he couldn't get by guys very well. He'd get stood up. He'd get jammed up. He couldn't turn the corner like he wanted to.
Oh, okay.
Now he is. And now he can get by guys. He's like 6'4", right? And everybody's like, oh, look at him, and he's got to work on his game, but he's getting offers from everywhere now in the last.
Did you feel like he was going to be a high major player? Like,
yeah, I felt like he was going to be a high major player the whole time because he's a point guard and he was 6'1" and real lanky. So, he's just a little, again, like I said, he's physically able to compete with the high level guys now, and now he's playing above the rim. Now people see a 6'4", 6'5" guard, and they're just these guys love length and length so much. It's like, okay, relax, but
right.
Those two guys have kind of stepped to the forefront a little bit. I'm sure there's some others. I'm sure we're gonna mention some others, but let's switch gears before we talk about the first spring live period in 2 years, which is our main in the paint topic. We want to probe the paint a little bit. Tiger Woods, that happened this weekend, and he got off to a strong start at the Masters, and you know what everybody's thinking? Oh my God, this is going to be one of the greatest comebacks ever.
Right. the storybook.
Oh God, the man almost killed himself during COVID in a car accident. What's wrong with him? He's never going to come back. Forget a major. He's never going to even come back. Then he's like in Masters. Then he kind of faltered. He looked like he tired. He slowed down. He shooting foul. I think he shot 78 in his last round, finished 47th, but he kind of tailed off. But I mean, what were you hearing the chatter? I know you didn't watch much of it, but like, it's just Tiger just the only thing interesting in golf. Like nobody's talking about the champion, and he's playing terrific golf. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, it's all about Tiger. I mean, if Tiger, because I think he ended up like 47th or
47.
If he would have ended top 10, they wouldn't give a damn about the champion. They barely give a damn about the champion now. But I think I just think golf's at a state where I think this weekend showed like how much they wanting a Tiger comeback. They want that storyline. I don't think they really were finding it this weekend. I think the winner's from Dallas.
Is he from Dallas?
Maybe. Don't quote me on that while we're on the show, but like I think so. But no one's really talking about him.
Yeah, that's unfortunate because he played really well.
I saw his numbers; it was really good. I mean, I was following it. I mean, anytime I followed it, was just Tiger Woods, Tiger Woods, Tiger Woods. Even when he wasn't playing good, that next day it was still Tiger Woods. So, like you said, I think just golf is trying to find that storyline.
Yeah, Scotty Scheffler, and man, he's been playing a really good golf game he's won the fourth player over the last 50 years with 4 PGA Tour wins in a single season before the end of April. I mean, he won the Masters, he won the match play, he won the Arnold Palmer Invitational, and he won the Phoenix Open. Like, these are PGA Tour wins. It's like it's not even May 1st. This guy's just dominating.
That's incredible.
He's a young guy, and people barely know his name. So they're looking for Tiger. Oh, come on, Tiger. So we'll see. I mean, Tiger's getting up there. He's, I think, 46 now. So he's the same age as Jack Nicklaus when he won his last Masters in 1986. Maybe Tiger can win one more. Even though when he won a couple years ago was incredible now. Because of all the things that happened when he got his injury and his marriage fell apart. It was all public. But we'll see. I guess we'll see if he has another run in him. That was kind of like the big non-basketball story.
Do you think he can win another one?
Oh man, I want to say no, but then I didn't think he was going to win the 16th major by winning Masters. But again, he has more injuries now. He's 2 years older. Right. He's getting older. It's not like he's getting older. The oldest guy ever to win the Masters, like I said, Jack Nicklaus was 46, so that's Tiger's age now. So is he going to win the Masters or another major in the late 40s? Even if he wasn't injured, that wouldn't be that easy.
Right.
46 is whoo.
Yeah, that's tough.
Start getting ready for the senior PGA Tour. Some guys played on the. Again, I'm no golf expert, but I think they play on the senior PGA by like early 50s. Right. Some guys, So we'll see. But I think there should be more talk about Scheffler and the other golfers. Like, there's some stories out there. Find them. Kind of like our about the WNBA. Like, quit talking about Sue Bird and Lisa Leslie and start talking about the girls.
Right. Like, the media like forgets how powerful they are. Bring out some other stories
for
sure.
So let's jump gears and talk a little bit about we're gonna have a big playoff preview. What do you think about the play-in? Obviously, the Lakers didn't make it. That's the big chatter right now, but we'll get into that with Chelsea next week because I know she's really invested in that. We'll have Chelsea back on, talk about the NBA playoffs. Just want to touch base on it. What's your What's your highlight on the playoffs, the play-in game, and the Lakers?
I mean, I think the play-in is going to be interesting. Pelicans, Spurs. That's gonna be a good one. That 9th and 10th, and then you got that Nets and Cavaliers. That's gonna be really good. I like the play-in teams. I mean, kind of looking at it, you got with the Clippers and the Timberwolves, that 7th and 8th, and then the Hawks and Hornets, which is okay, but we get to see LaMelo Ball versus Trae Young. That's where I'm more excited about it. And obviously the winners play each other. And all of that, but interested to see, like, in the West, like, the Clippers get the 8th seed and then they have to play the number 1 seed and Paul George is back. Those type of scenarios makes it interesting. Like, the Clippers aren't your typical 8th seed, right? Like the Nets, they wouldn't be your typical 8th seed if you're number 1. Like, it's just interesting. It's interesting, like, how it can all come about, and you got some really tough teams as your 8th seed. So, like, at that point, like, my question to you is, like, if like the Nets are an 8 seed or the Clippers an 8 seed, if they win the first round, is that really an upset?
Yeah, exactly. Correct. Because the Clippers would play, they're the 8 seed, like you said, but they would play the 2 seed, and the 9th and the 10th would play the Suns. So, like, what do you think about the 7th seed potentially getting knocked off, but the 10th seed, the Spurs, potentially playing in the first round? Do you think that's fair, or hey, you got to win the play-in game?
You got to win.
The 10th seed can advance and the 7th seed can be out.
Right. I think you got to play. I think he's, especially talking about those last 2 seeds. I think you just definitely have to play. That's why I like to play in. Those guys that 7th and 8th, because there's not much different from 9th and 10th.
Correct.
To be honest with you,
you got to play. You got to win and play. Yeah,
you got to play. Like at the end of the day, the Nets have been lost like 13 straight games or something crazy during the season, and some of these teams just have been playing really bad. So I think you got to play in to secure those last 2 spots. It's just what it is. I like that. I like the idea. I'm a big Mavs fan, so like if the Mavs were in it, like I may have a little different view, but you put yourself in that situation. So
yep. Yeah, they did put themselves in that situation. So, the top 2 seeds are the Miami Heat in the East and the Phoenix Suns in the West. We'll see what happens. Again, we'll get into that, talk about our picks for NBA MVP, Rookie of the Year, all that next week when Chelsea gets back on. I'm sure we're going to give her some crap about the Lakers.
Oh, yeah. She can't vote LeBron James MVP.
yeah. The Lakers fell apart. Again, I don't even want to talk about them, dude.
Oh,
it doesn't even not even on my radar. We'll talk about it next week. So let's shift to our main topic on the In the Paint show, the live period. And Ani, we kind of talked about the top of the show. Did this time out in the spring, have any noticeable differences than years past? Just what was your highline take, and what was the buzz in the gym like?
Being locally at the GASO, I mean, there was a lot of junior colleges. You had a few Division Ones, probably about 6 of them. Okay. It just, the feel was everyone's excited for the live period, but I think the college coaches really aren't, in my opinion. I don't want to say all of them, but you didn't even seeing the EYBL and then UA and Adidas, like, there was guys. I mean, I was talking to players and I was talking to parents and coaches. I was like, hey, yeah, we only probably had about 5 coaches at our game, or 10. Yeah. We may have had a lot of coaches on Friday, but Saturday, Sunday dwindled significantly. So it was just one of those things that it was you didn't see as many coaches out this time. Guys were hosting transfers for visits, so they didn't go out. They kept a couple guys back, and like I had even coaches talk to me about how, like, the 23 classes isn't very strong. That got right, like Zayden High and AJ Johnson, they blew up, and some guys held themselves, like
for sure.
And guys along that line, but it just I think it's like a mixture of the 23 class. And the coaches' eyes just aren't as strong as, especially like the 22s. And then these guys wanted to host these transfers for visits because they want to get old. They want to go older. So
better now. Yeah.
So now it's like one of those things. I was talking to a summer coach. I was asking, I said, so what do you tell
your team?
A parent? What do you tell a team? What do you tell a parent? Like, where they're expecting to play in front of 25, 30 college coaches. That's the reason they chose the circuit, right? Even the independents, I felt, they got hurt from it. But, like, that's the reason they go to the circuit. Sure. So now it's like, I'm not playing in front of all that.
No.
So does it get better? And, one coach doesn't really know. They think July will be better. Some believe that the second live period, the 22nd to 24th, will be better. But the reality is just a lot of uncertainty about it, So that's just kind of the climate of just the live period. This first live period was just, it didn't feel like a live period when I was in the gym. And I wasn't the only one, especially the ones that was in Indy and the ones that were in Orlando. Yeah. So, What were you getting?
Yeah, I was getting that. I saw a little bit less coaches. Now, the event in Vegas did have some coaches, and people were jumping between LA and Vegas. But like you said, there might be 15 guys in there, maybe 12. At some point, maybe 7. And then toward the end, maybe 5, and then there's obviously NAIA that can come through at any time. Shout out to Fresno Pacific. They were there watching the whole time. They were watching pretty much every game. So I want to just, hardworking. Like you said, I don't think what I see is the coaches are not fired up. Like, I need to get this guy. I need to get this guy. They're just kind of like, we see something, we'll watch a little bit, find our guy, we'll ask our questions, we'll ask our contacts that are trusted what we're looking at. But man, they're, like you said, they're just not all that fired up to, I'm trying to go after a 223 that we need that's going to fill a void in our program. I don't see that at all, and we got to be realistic. So coaches got to be realistic. We have to be realistic on this pod. Like you said, the travel coaches have to be realistic. What did you take, Ani, from like the parents, and did the players kind of notice it, or they're just playing and, hey, we're trying to make the best of it because they're going to play anyway?
They noticed it. I actually helped run an unsigned senior team with guys that are, I think are, I got guys that are like fringe Division I guys, probably more junior college. I got some D2, some low major type guys, and just kind of dealing with, some parents. Like I know some of the circuit teams, they kind of it was interesting. It's like, now after this first weekend, these circuit teams are trying to reach out to some of these other guys, seeing what they're missing. But like, I think a lot of them are just trying to they're kind of panicky a little bit, especially the unsigned. The 23s are a little are panicky as well, because they just want to know why these coaches aren't offering. That's just the biggest thing for them, is like, my son went for 20-some points and they didn't offer him. And we're in the Under Armour circuit. Just like why are they not? What does he have to do? And those are where the tough conversations have to be had. Where it's just like, they don't really care to take you right now. They don't care to look at you right now.
Yeah. It's a tough pill to swallow for many people, because they've invested time before the pandemic when the kids were like 11 and U, 13U, 15U. Now they get to the big stage, class of 23 or even some 22s, and it's like, you're on the big stage and there's not really that many people watching.
Right.
Like their decision makers are just, they're not there for this first life period. Maybe it'll change 22nd and 24th, but that's a difficult conversation, because you've invested a lot of time and money, and the coaches invested a lot of their time and money and effort. And there's going to be some bad breakups. There's going to be some unhappy people. There's going to be some disappointed people. I don't see any way around it.
100%. And that's one of the biggest, I just think they're trying to figure out when it will get better. And I think for all of us, we really just don't know. Like, I think July will be better. I do believe July will be better, because, the portal, they're not going to be worrying about getting guys in the portal. I think they'll focus on some of the 23s that they want to sign in the fall, or ones that they or potentially like to sign in the fall. So I think July will be better. I don't know about April. I think
correct.
April is just going to be one of those weird times where you're in the middle of just this transfer portal,
madness.
Madness. Yeah. best. And so I think people are trying to figure out, do we play on the circuit? Do we go independent? Do I play on this team with this many coaches? And then you got to ask yourself, like, I know Dino's made a tweet. He said, a lot of these circuit teams, they have an unsigned senior or two now. And now that they've allowed it. And
I mean, some teams have 221s and 222s. And it's like,
right.
That shows where we're at. Like, that's not
right. And so like, I always ask these 22s, I'm like, okay, it sounds good that you're in the circuit, but Auburn's not going over there to watch a 2022. Like, in the circuit, like 98% of these teams are not going to Under Armour, Adidas, or EYBL to watch an unsigned senior.
No.
So that's just the state we're in right now.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, we are just in that state, and I will be honest to people who listen to this pod. College coaches are like, they're tired of seeing 222s, and definitely tired of seeing 221s. If they're not, the evaluation is not getting any better,
right?
At a higher level, BCS, FBS, the top level schools, power conferences, they're not looking at too many 222s.
No.
In the high school market. So let's be realistic, guys. Let's keep communicating, choose wisely, I would probably, and then we got the scholastic period coming up, which is going to be good.
Right.
Why is it going to be good? Because the college coaches know what team players are on. That's one thing, because they know, okay, he's going to play for Duncanville, or he's going to play for,
Kenny.
Yeah, like, he's on that team. You know what time he's going to play, and you're going to watch him.
Right.
So it's a very good evaluation setting, and it's been kind of necessary now. So because of what you said was going on in the spring, it's going to be very vital and very important that kids do well in the scholastic life period.
And even like you're at Mullen JUCO event. There's a JUCO event, probably about 35 minutes from the field at Duncanville Fieldhouse, and a lot more of the Division I coaches were there. But a lot of the guys that have another year junior college life, you're just like a 223. They weren't just offering kids like that, because they're more folk like the schools that go to a JUCO event are trying to get kids to fill a spot now more so than a kid that has another year left that may not be qualified.
And he doesn't have his AAA. Yeah, he doesn't have his AAA. They could just wait next spring for him.
Exactly.
They're not worried about it. So, yeah, that's very interesting. So, what do you think is the solution for the spring as it relates to the portal? Do you think it's just going to let the COVID players play themselves out, get out of the system, and it's going to go back and rectify itself? Or do you think maybe one of these live weekends should go a little later, maybe in May? What do you think the solution is on it?
I think a mixture of both. I think it's time. Like you said, just let this COVID year, guys. You're going to have to let that kind of go away. But, I mean, you had the same time transfers can go on official visits. You have the live period. So it's never going to work the way you want it to work.
There's only 72 hours or 48 hours in a weekend. I mean, there's only so many hours. Coaches are traveling. They're getting on planes. Then we got the damn Southwest and JetBlue and all these canceling flights all over the place. Like, we got problems.
Oh, 100%.
It's very expensive. If you're going to watch a borderline player and the gas is $6 a gallon and you're a college coach, you're like, man, I'm just going to stay here. I ain't going to. Compared to 3 or 4 years ago.
Right, 100%.
Yeah, like, maybe you as a scout too say, you know what, I can't afford to just drive over there to that event 40 miles for 2 games right now. It's just not feasible compared to a few years ago when the gas was $2.
Exactly. And the flight tickets were not $700-$800,
And the hotels weren't $250 a night.
Right.
It affects everything. That's what I kind of see a little bit. It's affecting everything. We talked about like the refs are under more gun. They want to get paid a little more because of the gas prices to get to the events. Everybody's under the gun, not just the parents and the players. Like, the whole industry's under the gun because of the state of the industry and also because of the cost of living and less flights, less Ubers, less taxis available. It's just it's not as pleasant and convenient to travel as it was 5 years ago, Ani, just for whatever reason.
I agree. Even last year, I thought was so much easier to travel. I was like, hell, I see a plane ticket for $97.
Let me get it.
Right now, it's like, if I see a ticket for $300, I feel like I'm winning. And I'm gonna do some traveling like Pangos All-American. I won't be as some deal, but like I even have to be smarter about like, okay, do I spend $700 on a flight? No, these college coaches don't even give a damn about being there. They're not going to call me asking about these kids, like AJ Johnson. You've known him for a long time. You don't need to go down there to watch him.
Spend $700 on a flight and then I can't get back or something. Or the flight gets canceled. Now I'm in Indianapolis or Orlando for 4 days. I mean, that happened to the GEICO teams. We talked about that. Some of their flights got canceled. They had to stay down in Fort Myers for another 2 or 3 days. Well, maybe for some of those teams they can handle it, but for a lot of parents, that puts a lot of pressure on you. That's a lot of money.
Exactly.
So we'll talk about that. Let's bring on our guest, Aaron Burgin, of Full-Time Hoops. He was at the LA events, like while I was in the Vegas events, and just talk about some of the things he saw, some of the things we talked about, and some of the players that he saw. Aaron, are you there?
What's going on, guys? How are you guys doing?
Yeah, that's good.
What's
Aaron,
good?
jumping on. Thanks for joining the In the Paint show. Aaron, we just wanted to talk about the general feel of the live first spring live period in 2 years. You know, we've talked about the portal a little bit. We know the 222s and 223s maybe not as desirable as they were.
Yeah.
As rising seniors 5 years ago. But what did you get the sense of the events that you had? Was that this common theme, or did something else arise?
You know, obviously there was talk about, you know, the number of 2022s and postgrads who were playing in the events, and how, you know, some coaches were lamenting like there might not be spots for these guys. And, you know, that was something you kept hearing over and over and over again was, you know, great kid, great player, great talent, but, you know, we just don't have a spot for him. And you heard that over and over and over. And even with the 23s, what we heard was that, you know, this logjam that we've been talking about for, you know, the last couple months probably won't clear up until the 2020, the graduating class of 2020 is out of school. So we're talking about another potential 3 years of just this problem piling on, and those rising senior kids are the ones who are going to get impacted by it.
Yeah. So Aaron, you don't want to see Cody Riley and these guys in college for another couple of years of eligibility.
I mean, you know, if you're in college and you want to maximize your educational opportunities while, you know, getting to play some basketball, I'm not going to fault you for that.
Of course not.
You know, but it clearly hurts the guys below who are trying to crack in. You know, it's almost like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, where a Division I scholarship is like this golden ticket, and there's only like a handful of them out there, and you've got all these really good players who, you know, are, you know, they're vying for that one. And it used to be, I talked about it a couple of times on Twitter, like a guy like Makai Williams from plays for the Cali Rebels, who played for Capistrano Valley Christian this year. Guy like that would have been a no-brainer spring signee. You know, this weekend there were probably 5 or 6 coaches at most watching his games. And he was as dominant as he's been all season. And that's kind of the state of where we're at right now.
Yeah. And, you know, I was the same boat. Before you came on, I told Ronnie that at Pangos, you know, the Sweet 16, there might have been 12 coaches, then 7, 5, in that range.
And then by the end of the event, there's like, you know, 4.
Yeah, correct. So we're on the same boat. What did you kind of take away from just the logistics of traveling, the cost of gas, the cost of, or, you know, is it putting a lot more pressure on the whole industry? Did you notice that? Were people trying to get, how many events did you go to? Were you in the car a lot, or did you stay put?
It's putting pressure on me. That's for damn sure. I mean, you know, I decided early on that I was going to drill down on one event this weekend and really try to just cover the hell out of that event versus trying to bounce back and forth. And one of the issues that we came into logistically with covering that one event was it was at two different venues. Half the teams were playing in Orange County, the other half the teams were playing in Corona.
Whoa.
And you know, I'm not getting on the 91 freeway on a Saturday afternoon. That bitch is undefeated. It's been undefeated for years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I made a concerted effort to get to Corona one time the weekend for 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock games, and then dart it back down the 91 to Open Gym's location in Anaheim before traffic could pick up. And even that was just like, okay, I'm not doing this again. And I think for everyone, the back of everyone's mind, we're in California. You know, I know people are crying about $4.33 gas in Texas or, you know, in Utah, but I'll take that in a heartbeat in California, you know, where
it's expensive.
It's expensive right now. And it's crazy because it's going down right now.
Right.
Like it's gone down 30 cents in the past like 2 weeks, but I'm still paying $5.30 versus $5.90, you know, $5.60. And it's tough. It's hard out here for a pimp. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And that's a lot of people. That's a lot of, like Ani said that too. He's not going to travel to 2-3 events in one weekend. It's not feasible, especially since the colleges are not really demanding, hey, Aaron, AI, what are you guys looking? Do you guys have any 222s for us? Any late? Like they're not really.
Well, and not just that either. It's also because the events that we have locally are not, a lot of the top kids aren't there. So, take for instance, the WCE event this weekend in Irvine, which I heard was well run, was a quality event, but their A teams were in Indianapolis, like all of their Under Armour Association teams, and so were their B teams, their national teams. They were all in Indianapolis. So that meant that you had the program's third teams, a handful of really small independents were the only ones at their event. And in terms of when you start talking about cost benefit analysis, it doesn't pencil out.
Right. Correct. Well, I mean, everything is not, obviously some guys did well, so we don't want to dwell. We kind of know the problems. I don't think we're going to get fixed. Maybe this upcoming 22nd to 24th, maybe the summer will be better after, but we definitely need, I was telling Ronnie, the scholastic period is going to help a lot of kids. We need it. They're going to need it.
Section 7 for sure.
Yeah, Section 7 and the other ones across the country. It's going to be necessary because this is going to be a tough spring, and parents are going to have a lot of questions, tough questions. Travel coaches are going to have to, suck it up and give some tough answers. The scholarships are not there. So, it's very tough for everybody involved.
It's funny. You mentioned that too about parents and their concerns. And I think a lot of times travel coaches are getting, they get a bad rap even from their parents or players, just wondering, okay, my kid is playing really well, yet the needle's not being moved right now. Like, what's going on? Where, why aren't you doing your job? And the fact is they are. They really are. I mean, I talked to a number of coaches in San Diego. They put out calls, emails leading into the live period just saying, hey, come see our players. And, they're doing their due diligence. It's just a matter of coaches having a lot going on right now in terms of, the visits of the portal visits. That's been a huge thing. The drumbeat from a lot of coaches were, we've got 2 staff members here, out, and the others are back on campus, hosting visits. So that wasn't a phenomenon that you had to deal with during previous springs. So it's so I always tell parents, don't be so hard on your AAU coaches. For the most part, they really are trying. And, if you even see 1 or 2 coaches on your sideline, know that your AAU coach is doing his job and be appreciative of it.
And, you're absolutely right about that. And even like the coaches that they see, and maybe it's not the level that they want, but, even talk about just think guys in the 23 class, and even guys that are unsigned, like they need to really value what they're getting right now.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I think that it's like you want more, and I get it. Like, I understand that, but I think what goes on is that, I want higher, so I'm gonna dismiss this right now. And then once you realize you're not gonna get what you desired, you can't even go back to what was available for you, from the jump. And
I've had that happen to a couple of kids in the last couple of years where they just they shined on some D2s or some NAIAs, and then when they realized that it wasn't the coach's fault, it's just what's out there. They tried to go back and call some of those schools, and they were like, we've moved on. Wow. We don't have time to wait, And so, they end up going post-grad and trying to come back this year and trying to figure it out. And it's like, when you have something, embrace it, take it, and you make the best of it.
What do you think of the JUCO route, like for some of these guys that that are looking for a 4-year situation, but you got JUCOs offering full rides?
Man, I'm all for any level of basketball that extends your career. And if a really good junior college, or even let's say if it's a junior college commensurate to your ability, because I'm not going to say I'm not going to say a bad JUCO, but you know what I mean? If it's a JUCO where you can play and you can continue to get better, you can't turn that down in this environment. And honestly, you shouldn't turn it down in any environment or climate, because of all of the junior college players that we're seeing, getting opportunities at the D2, NAIA, and Division I level. I know there's a stigma attached to, some communities where they feel that junior college is just, beneath them. And, the reality is that if you go into a junior college situation, one, you're paying less for your general education. You're getting 2 years of your education, out of the way. You leave with an associate's degree, which is better than nothing. And then you're moving on to the next level, and those who don't fully take advantage of it, they got to play for 2 years and, they still got to extend their career. Exactly. It's a win-win situation.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Aaron, let's talk a little bit of some of the players you thought stood out or impressed you, or we don't want to dwell on the whole
no, of course,
ecosystem. Let's talk about some of the players that
because one thing I'm going to tell you is the Adidas Gold event was actually stronger than it's been in the last couple of cycles. Okay. There was a team that came down from Canada named Project Excellence. Man, they were probably the star of the event from the first day, from Saturday morning. All you kept hearing coaches talk about, did you see the team with like 26'8" Canadian dudes like dunking and throwing down dunks and warm-ups? I'm like, okay, I need to go catch them. So I went to watch them versus Team Veritas, which is a really good program, Marquis Worthy, really good player. Sure. They pretty much ran away with that. They ended up winning that game by, I think, 18 points. The guy who really stood out to me, I'm probably going to butcher his name, but Janoy Thomas, a 5'11" point guard out of the Ontario area.
Wow.
Cat quick, the fastest guy on the floor end to end, a lefty who could finish with either hand, knock down, really key jump shots for this team. When he wanted to, showed off high-level vision. I was shocked when I heard that his only offer or interest was Western Kentucky at this point. That blew me away because this is a kid that looks like a high major point guard, and the way he played, suggests that his recruitment will get higher as we move on into the spring, into the summer. The next one you probably saw me tweet about a couple of times, Ronnie, was Jaden Matingu from St. Augustine. I mean, he absolutely he jumped out off the page this weekend. One of the things, when you see players play different roles from high school to club, you get to finally see what they really can do. Jaden was a guy who played a very specific role for St. Augustine. He was their defensive stopper. He was their off guard, and he found his points, either offensive rebounding, timely jump shots, or occasionally as like the secondary ball handler. With the game point team, he's playing more of a secondary to primary ball handler role, and he's grown. He's physically stronger. He's an explosive, I would say, borderline elite athlete. I mean, they're running lob plays for their 6'3" point guard, and he's finishing with his elbows at the top. I mean, it's like, he's serious, and the one knock he's had as a player over the years was, can he shoot? And he's like, had a couple of step back threes that were the highlight variety. So he probably was the fastest riser of the group. This is a guy that I think really helped his recruitment out a lot. Nicholas Kaminia from Harvard Westlake, a freshman who's playing 16 and under for BTI Select.
Wow.
He's a problem. 6'7". His dad was a player. So you can tell he's got the fundamentals down. I mean, very efficient, shoots it. I mean, beautiful jump shot, knocks down shots from 3 levels, really engaged defender and a really good teammate. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, man, like, he screams like West Coast Conference, like all conference, guy from the start. Yeah. But, I could also see a lot of high major programs falling in love with a kid like this, especially as a rising sophomore, with those type of ball skills at that size and being able to defend, big time.
Great.
And then I would say the other one too, Jaden Matingu's teammate, Martin Gumwell. I would say you asked me guys who improved or surprised me. I think his improvement really jumped off the charts. I mean, this is a guy who you and I have watched over the past, 3 years, and, he couldn't walk and chew bubblegum at the same time as a freshman playing. Last year playing 17s was a struggle for him as a rising sophomore, but he had one game where he had 8 blocks in the first half, and it was against Project Excellence, the team with the 6'8" guys. They're coming in high flying, and he's just, he pinned one block shot above the circle. It's just like, what? It's like, you know, 6'11", very long, athletic, aggressive rebounder. I mean, he's pursuing rebounds all the way out to the 3-point line. Elite rim protector. His offense is still a work in progress, but I think coaches saw enough of the improvement. Pepperdine pulled the trigger that weekend, so he picked up a Pepperdine offer. So I think those were some of the big standouts for me. That Project Excellence team, there's about 4 other guys that I can name, and I'll butcher their, mispronounce all of their names.
Yeah, we'll just watch them later in the spring or summer.
Yes. And the interesting thing about that Project Excellence team, talking to their head coach, a lot of these guys, like I think Nigel Hilton was one that he named specifically. He was the MVP of I think the Pangos Frost Off Camp in Chicago a few years back.
Okay.
And they haven't been playing because, as strict as some people think that California or other states have been with COVID-19 regulations, Canada has been even way more strict. And so a lot of these guys were considered top tier talents, and they haven't played in like a year and a half or 2 years.
Literally haven't played.
Haven't played. So now they're getting back on the circuit for the very first time. A lot of our guys have been playing throughout the pandemic. These guys haven't. And so, when he told me that they were just trying to get the rust off during a 4-0 weekend where they beat teams by the only close game they had was the Game Point game where they beat Game Point 55-51. Other than that, they were just blowing teams out the gym. That's a testament to how talented that group is. They've got about 5 to 6 guys who are gonna, have a chance at getting Division I looks in this environment.
In the COVID environment.
Yes.
I heard that. Dino's had a Pangos Canada camp in 2018, and we know who Taryn Todd is. He went to Findlay before the program shut down. He was kind of like the player that emerged there. But they had a bunch of young players, and I said, these guys are good. Some of them are pretty good. They have a chance. They were like 223s, 222s.
Yep.
Those guys literally, I heard it, some of them stopped playing ball. They had nowhere to play.
Yep.
Like literally schools are closed, playgrounds are closed. Like, so we didn't have
playground. I mean, it was like LA. It was like LA the first couple of months of the pandemic where they had like the the things on the rims so that you couldn't play, you couldn't shoot on the courts.
They had that in Dallas. Yeah,
exactly. So they've had that for the past like 18 months. So, a lot of guys haven't had an opportunity to actually hoop or get better. But like when you look at a team like Project Excellence and watch them, it's just like, man, imagine when they get going in July. It's gonna be insane. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So it's been an insane couple of weeks. I'm sure, Aaron, let people know where you're gonna be at the next couple of weeks, and let people know where they can find your work and follow you on Twitter.
All right. So next, in a couple of weeks, April 22nd and 24th, I'm going to be really focusing on the SoCal Live event that's being held by EHA, which is backed by the Cali Rebels and Southern California Academy, the Cali Stars. They're billing it as the largest independent tournament, or the best independent tournament in the country. I think GASO in Texas might have a say about that too, because I think GASO in Duncanville is going to be really good. Sure. But looking forward to seeing a lot of those teams and a few teams that you saw in Vegas this weekend, Ronnie, that I didn't get a chance to. Players Play, which is a San Diego-based program. Heard a lot of good things about how Ryan Enos played.
Cathedral Catholic.
Yeah, a guy who didn't play much at all on Cathedral Catholic's roster this year, who could be a potential all-CF guy down here next year. I mean, that's going to be he'll make a big leap. Looking forward to seeing the Cali Stars. They always have a group of talented kids, and I think Julius, probably of anyone in Southern California right now, Julius has been able to kind of navigate the COVID waters the best in terms of making sure that his kids, end up at the appropriate level. He had a slew of guys go Division I last year, so looking forward to seeing that. Also, looking forward to seeing FOH Seattle. I think they have a kid, Ben Mars, a 6'11" kid who's gotten a lot of interest and offers, and he looks like he's going to be really, sought after over the next in the next couple cycles. So I'm looking forward to seeing them. And then I'll be at the West Coast Elite Tournament this weekend, and I'll maybe be at the stage. I saw a lot of the stage teams this weekend, so may not have an opportunity to get back to there. But if you want to follow me on Instagram or social media, it's Fulltime Hoops 1. I also write for Prep Hoops Southern California, so you can find a lot of my stuff there. Generally I'm a pretty nice guy. I talk a lot about basketball. You can avoid my political takes if you want, it's fine. But that's me.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, appreciate it, Aaron. Thank you for coming on. Let us know what you're up to and what you saw. But I think we're on the same boat. It's going to be a difficult spring for 222s, definitely trying to get somewhere, and 223s are navigating the waters, but hopefully it'll get back to a normal type of ecosystem maybe in a couple years.
Looking forward to it.
Okay. Thanks, Aaron. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, you guys.
Take care. Bye. So you see there, Fulltime Daddy, like you say, you follow him at Fulltime Hoops 1. And, he does a lot of great things for San Diego players. And he's right. That kid, Ben Enos, is one of the best players. Ryan Enos, I'm sorry, from 6'8" from Cathedral Catholic on the Players Play. They won the 16U championship at the Pangos Sweet 16 over the Factory, Arizona. Mm-hmm. The other kid they had was Pearson Carmichael from Summit High School in Bend, Oregon, 6'6". Those guys are really good 224 players. The Factories had very small group. Kenny Mullins had a very small group, meaning numbers. They only had 6 guys, and one guy was hurt. Khalil Kelly from Wilson Canyon High in Sunrise. Terrific young point guard, 225. He tweaked his ankle, but then he played on Sunday morning. He scored 13 points, 3 second half threes. He did really well. That team is really good. I wanted to run down them a little bit. Again, I'm just reading straight from my notes. Mm-hmm. So bear with me as I just read their names. I'm not, I'm just grabbing it straight from my pages. Like you said, we said Khalil Kelly, the 225 point guard, about 6'1", 6'2", really good player. I thought their best player all around was Noah Suwami, Paradise Valley last year, but he's going to most likely be at Pinnacle High School in Arizona, 224. He's originally from South Carolina. When we get a player like him, Ani, on the West Coast, especially in Arizona, even a little bit in California, when you see an athlete like that, he's not from there. Like, we know the way he could move in his twitch and like his explosiveness. Like, Arizona players you don't see that a lot from Arizona kids, like an abundance. Now, obviously, there's a Chase Budinger, there's Jared Bayless here and there, Jahi Carson, but overall, you don't get a player like that. He just kind of explodes off the page, does a little bit of everything. His name is Noah Sawumi. I want to make sure I'm saying that right. Most likely be at Pinnacle. Braylon Johnson, who's related to Puff Johnson, and he's related to the other Johnson on the Suns. So he's in town. Braylon's he's a pretty good prospect. He's at Pinnacle, 6'6", 224. They also have a big guy, Ring Nairi. He was at Liberty High School, 224. Again, these are all Arizona players from the Factory. Kenny Mullins, longtime AU coach. Their 16U team, they lost to that Players Play team. And the Players Play team, as Aaron mentioned, their best players. Let me give that rundown just one more time in case people missed it. Again, I'm if you hear me shuffling through my notes, I'm just reading straight from my notes.
I know you have a lot of notes.
Yeah. I'm not trying to be cute and memorize it. And I'm just going to go straight from the notes. They're the champions. They also had Blake Davidson, who plays at Mater Dei. He's Nick Davidson's brother, 225, 6'6". Carmichael Pearson, as we mentioned, he's a really good player in Oregon. And Ryan Enos, who was kind of the star of the show. Ryan Enos, him and Naomi are the best players that stood out and really did some things. Ryan Enos, as Aaron mentioned, is at Cathedral Catholic High School in San Diego. So he's another 224. So Aaron, actually we got, as Aaron did, and again, he saw that Canadian team, but I got a lot more out of watching the 16s and the young guys than I did. I really don't want to. I don't see much improvement and much difference in the 222s. A little bit in 223s, but 222s are not improving since the CIF or UIL season. I don't think much.
Right.
Kind of the same. So, did you want to give some of the rundown? Well, as I get a few more notes of some of the guys that you saw, even maybe some of the younger guys at the event.
Yeah, so the 25 class in this GASO event was pretty good. You had Southern Assault. They had a kid out of Austin, Hudson Greer, about 6'5", bouncy, plays hard, can shoot it. Kind of reminds me of Matthew Mayer, like a more athletic Matthew Mayer at the same time. Really, really talented. I think he's the best basketball player and arguably the best prospect on that 25 group. They got a kid from Duncanville. I talked about Duncanville, have some young guys, Caden Edwards, talented, about 6'2", 6'1", 6'2", really more of an off guard, but lefty that scores it. Really pure stroke from deep, and can just fill it up. He can really fill it up. I thought he was good. Still needs to work on just his decision making, but you see it. He didn't play much with Duncanville. Obviously, they were so damn loaded.
Yeah, they're too.
But just to see him in a larger role and remember what he can do offensively, you see what the promise is and what the role can be for next year. Especially now that they need another guard to complement with Eric Demings. For San Antonio future. So San Antonio, that 2025 class is very interesting. They're really good. They played in the 17U division. So did that Southern Assault 15s.
Yeah.
They got a kid, Kingston Flemings, a 2025, about 6 foot, really can score the basketball, high feel, floater game, stop and pop, just a really I think he's a kid that has a high major chance down the road. Right. They have another kid. I have to look at my notes. I'm gonna go. Yeah. I'm gonna go like you.
My notes are. Go ahead.
Daryl Banks, 2025, like a 6'5", 6'6" wing. Saw him make shots off catch and shoot, attack and close out, and he's a good athlete. He was just interesting for me. Just seeing a kid that has a chance to really get better down the road. I'm interested to see how he develops. There's a 2026. He went to that Pangos Junior All-American camp. Isaiah Ward. He was playing in the 17U. He just,
wow.
Yeah.
That's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear. But Donnie, I want to ask you that. Why are so many top-notch 224s playing 16s?
I don't know. I think people are telling them to dominate. They're telling them to dominate their age group.
Okay.
And that's what's going to help them. But to me, especially in the 23 class isn't as strong.
Yeah.
I'm surprised a lot of circuit teams aren't getting these really strong 24s. And the 25 class is strong too, so they have a lot of depth. So I don't know, it's if you get a 24 to play with the 23s, I feel like there's enough 20. If you need to fill a spot, I feel like there's a 25 to fill that void. There's a lot of depth within the 24 and 25 class. I think there's no problem getting players.
Yeah, I see some top 15 guys.
Yeah.
Guys are getting big time scholarships in 224 and they're playing 16s.
Right.
So when I hear your guy from Austin, from San Antonio or whatnot, is he from San Antonio or Austin?
Yeah, he's from San Antonio.
Yeah. He's playing 226, playing 17s. That's the guy I want to watch.
Right.
I don't want to that's
exactly.
I want to see him. You know what I mean? I want to see him, and I saw him obviously at the Pangos Junior All-American, but I want to see him in that setting.
Yeah, like the physicality and everything wasn't an issue. I thought he held his own just fine. Like obviously, like the speed could be a little bit too much for him. But man, I mean, he was one of the most impressive kids in that whole weekend there. Just
make him look impressive. You know what I mean?
Right.
He doesn't have to have an A1 game. Even if he plays a B game, he's gonna look good because he's 226 or 225. If there's another kid that's playing 17, so guys, if you can play 217s and you're good enough, show that you're good enough. Play 17s, especially this spring and this summer. You ain't gonna be no coaches watching over to your 15 and U game.
No,
no, it's not happening. No. So play 17s if you can. Let me go over a few of the other names that I saw. EBO has 17U, had a good player. Again, they had a 225. He's one of the best freshmen in California at Kalinga High School. His name is Julius Oloranju. I hope I didn't butcher his name too much. 6'3", 6'4" shooter. He's got a really good chance. He's like a mid-major, low major plus. Really good. His dad's a junior college coach. He's a really good player. Tyus Parrish Tillman, 222 out of Clovis West. He had a really good high school season. You know, he can maybe go low D1, high D2. Mike Davis, really good rebounder at San Joaquin Memorial, where he played with Fresno State bound Joe Hunter. Michael Davis is a powerful player, a little bit undersized for his position, but a power forward that can do a lot of good things. Henry Madden at 223 is also a good player there in the central section. He's at Central High School. So EBO had some good players. Again, I'm just going over page by page what I see. Probably the best guard overall, hard to guard, 17U in Las Vegas, Tavi Jackson, Las Vegas High School. Kind of always been off the beaten path a little bit, but he's really good. He's a good rebounder, one of the best rebounding guards I've seen in a while. He can score. He's got to keep working on the consistency of his jumper, but he can do everything. He can run a team. He moves well, changes directions well, sees the court like no other. You know, and he can see he's a step ahead. He kind of reminds me of former NBA player Fat Lever as a guard rebounding.
That's a throwback.
Yeah, a great guard. Kind of like you look at his body and you're like, you know, he's strong. He doesn't have that sinewy, like slender frame. He's kind of a little thick.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up at Colorado State has the inside track on him. He's probably going to end up at that level. So look out for him. Tavi Jackson, really good player. Again, I'm just shuffling through my notes here. Brevin Bender from Mountain View High School in Meridian, Idaho, played for Idaho Premier 16U, 224 athletic, and he could defend. He's one to watch. Again, that's Idaho Premier 16s. As I'm just flipping through my notes, wanted to mention some guys. I'm going to stick to the younger guys. Philip Luada, 225. Big kid from Congo 15s. They're in Utah. I thought he did a good job. And again, I'm just going page by page. I'm not really we mentioned the players. They won the 16U, which was the most impressive division and the most impressive game. Salt Lake Rebels won the 17U. Another 16U prominent elite, Lance Stevenson, not him, but a guy who pronounces his name like Lance Stevenson. Lantz Stevenson. He's at Coronado High School, 225, 6'6", good player. And Mason Abidin, he's also at Coronado. He's a really good shooter, 225. They're, again, prominent elite in Vegas. Again, we're just going note by note. I don't want to try to mention as many guys as I can. Raiden Thorson, I thought was a good player for Simply Fundamental for Coach Locke's team, and a well-known independent team. Salt Lake Rebels Red. I just thought Isaac Garrett played really well from Pleasant Grove High School. He's a mid-major level player. He can do a little bit of everything. Skill. He's crafty. He can score inside. He probably was overall top to bottom the best 223 in the tournament. So on that note, I think that wraps up that. Again, we can talk about what we saw,
right?
And also like the coaches, the portal, but we did want to mention, and we're glad Aaron Burgin came on and talked about some of the players he saw and what he saw. I think it kind of mirrors what me and you saw in terms of like the feel, the overall lack of depth of coaches. But we also wanted to talk on this pod about the players, and that's what we're here for, to talk about the positive attributes of the players.
Right, like in a couple of notes, a couple guys that I got to see, like in online, and my guy Mark Cooper, we're talking, exchanging notes. JoJo Tugler plays for Houston Hoops. Athletic, 6'8", plays hard as hell. High major schools been calling me about him. I think he's going to really get into high major recruitment. Jace Posey, who's my man? Is it James Posey who played in the NBA?
James Posey from Miami Heat.
James Posey's son. Like a 6'4", hardworking, defensive, athletic kid, and he shot the ball better. Like when I saw him at the TCU Elite Camp in August, I didn't see the shooting like that, but shooting it better. Hitting open shots. I think TCU offered. I know his recruitment is getting to be in that high major. Some of the main ones like Cooper Flagg from the team out in Maine, like a big wing, just talented as shit. I mean, it's just incredible. Like he's one kid that like he has no business playing 15s.
That was Cooper Flagg. So, have you seen the Bruiser brothers? The Bruiser
that was my next ones. Dominated. Like they are so much further ahead than all those kids. They were really good. Jalen Pitt, he goes to Dream City. I saw him on teams. I think he's a kid that's originally from Canada, and I got to see him when they played in the RJ Hampton Classic. He was really good. Chris Johnson from JL3 was good. I thought he was better than what I saw him at the circuit the previous weekend. And those are just a couple of kids that really came. Drew Steffi for Pro Skills, the Texas Tech commit. He was really good. And Pro Skills had a 3-1 weekend. Guys like they picked up Tijon Brown, who played at Kimball, who's like a real scrappy guard. I think averaged about 8 assists in the first session. Just a couple guys just that really stood out to me. Ron Holland, of course.
Sure. We talked about Ron earlier. He's maybe battling for a top three player in the class. So
Caden Cooper, last one. Caden Cooper, didn't get to see him, but I saw him at the circuit with Team Trey Young. They were in Indy. He's been blowing up. About a bunch of Power Five's been offering him. Athletic wing. I mean, just like a freak. Really good in transition. Rebounds well, and shooting's coming along. Just in his live dribble game is too. So those are a couple of kids just want to highlight. Like you said, some positives about some of these players that have really helped themselves this past weekend.
And regardless of what we're saying about the logistics and the cost of travel, the cost of running an event, like there's still great kids out there that are getting scholarships. That's what our pod's all about.
100%.
So we want to thank you guys for tuning in this week. I think we're about to wrap it up. Again, we try to talk as many good players as we can. I'm really interested to see like who the 225 like is. Boozer, Caden, I believe is the bigger one, or Flag. Like, are they the top two guys in 225 already? Like, and one of them is going to have to be my national freshman of the year. So we're going to see which one shakes out. We're going to have that coming up soon. Mr. Basketball USA still needs to be decided between the top player in the country, the top junior in the country, and then this is based on their high school season, obviously. And how good they are. So that look for that soon. Go to .com. I gave a rundown of the national champs, Duncanville and the other national champs in previous seasons. I have a big long. You can go back and look at national champs from all kind till the 1920s. Even segregated schools had national champs. I don't know if you knew that.
Well, I did not know that.
In the Prairie View in Texas was segregated, so the segregated Black schools up until the Brown Board of Education came down in 1954, but schools were still segregated until like 1967 across the country, maybe until the early 70s, literally. So segregation was supposed to end, and then obviously the Civil Rights Movement came in 1964, but like there still was a Black Negro tournament. They call it the National Negro Tournament until like 67. So there's a bunch of stuff you can look at on ballslife.com and look at all the national champs from when schools were not segregated after that, and the black schools had their own tournament, which was a great tournament. Yeah, it started like in from 1929 to 1967.
Wow.
With a little bit of stops in between with like the World War II and stuff like that, but they had their own great tournament. It was really awesome to learn about that. I wish there was more information about it. I do have some information because I'm a nut job, but like everybody, not a lot of people don't know about that. You know what I mean? Like,
right. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's really cool. So it's on ballislife.com. We'll have some end of the season stuff, our elite All-American team, all that. So yeah, that tournament, just to give you the rundown real quick, it took place from 1929-67. It was held at Hampton Institute, which is now Hampton University, Gary, Indiana, Fayetteville College in North Carolina, Tennessee State for many years, 1945 to 1965, and then at Alabama State the last 2 years. And it was known as the Southern Interscholastic Basketball Tournament from 1949 to 1967. So very great information there.
Yeah.
Again, what people don't understand, people are like, mostly people look at Will Chamberlain as the first big national recruit who was going to get paid by a lot of colleges to go anywhere he wanted. Villanova was going to give him jewelry, and Kansas gave him X, Y, and Z. And like because before that, colleges were kind of looked at like you went to the college your parents did, or the college that like, there were scholarships and stuff, but it was kind of like, what do you call it? Like a lineage thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like you went to the college where you knew people, your parents knew people, where there was money. But Will Chamberlain kind of blew that out of the water. Like every college wanted him across the country, and every college was willing to
pay whatever the price was.
It was really because he was like the first national big time recruit, like a huge recruit, and that was obviously a year after Brown versus Board of Education kind of ended. Everybody got equal education.
Right.
So in that time frame, Ani, it's not like when you say a school got consolidated, kind of like Beaumont United, right? Beaumont United recently got consolidated a few years ago, Beaumont High School. Back then, when like an all-black school got ended, it's not like they preserve the artifacts like they do for buildings. You get what I'm saying? They just bulldoze those buildings down.
Right.
Like
it just wasn't nothing.
Yeah, well, like one nothing. Okay, you guys want to end segregation? Get rid of this school.
Wow.
So it's like a lot of artifacts, a lot of yearbooks, a lot of newspapers, black newspapers. Some of that stuff's lost, or you got to really, really, really dig for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or you got to do the story by the mouth, like I mean, like
Correct. So there's a lot of stuff in the Alabama, Texas, Mississippi, where it's like when segregation supposedly ended, we know it didn't really end until 2 years later. Like those schools were just like the information is lost. So I've tried to dig. I wish I could dig more. I wish I had time to not work and just dig more. But I mean, look, we got to continue on this pod. We got to move forward and help the young kids. So we appreciate you listening every week. Again, you can still use that one-time discount code, shop.ballislife.com, 15% off your next order. The independent discount code is PAINT15. Make sure you check out our other podcasts on the Balls Knife Podcast Network on YouTube. Kicks of Your Life, Noble and Rouge, Unapologetic, Buckets and Breakdowns. Again, for episode 125, I think that wraps us up. We really appreciate it. Thanks for listening and thanks for watching on YouTube. But till next time, we're out of here.
All right, peace.